Welcome back to The Outright Effect, a podcast in which unique perspectives challenge us to be better versions of ourselves. I'm Shelly.
And I'm Tempsy. And today we're talking about New Year's, how we celebrate, traditions, resolutions, all good stuff. Shelly, how did you celebrate growing up?
For New Year's, and I honestly feel like, once Halloween's done, then you're like, New Year's is right around the corner, which is very sad to say because there's 2 months in between.
Yep.
But when I was a kid, I would actually visit my mom's side of the family in Kauai a lot. And New Year's there was like huge. Every year we'd have it at my grandparents' house. And that was a house everyone would come over to. We would all meet there. And there was this whole buffet line of food. And people would play cards and all that kind of stuff and have all this firework type things outside for kids.
Sounds
honestly,
like a lot.
For kids.
Sounds like my Christmas.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, New Year's was the thing for us. I can't remember exactly how many people would come, but I was really young. We were around like 5 to 10 years old, somewhere in that range somewhere, maybe even younger. But the house was totally packed. We would do, I don't even know. I remember putting like those little sparkler things, like lining them up in the ground and like lighting them all up fire. How can you imagine like letting little kids do stuff like this? I was totally doing this on my own. Like,
sounds like fun though.
People were watching me, but they were like kind of far away. And there were like buckets of water and stuff close by that I could like put the things that were burnt into afterwards. But can you imagine?
That's
like
preparation.
They were just letting us do whatever we wanted. They trusted us a lot, I guess.
Wow.
But anywho's, New Year's here in Hawaii back then was huge. People would do a whole ton of fireworks. Those Chinese firecracker ones were super popular. People would buy like rolls of them. They're really long. They like pop super loud for maybe like a minute or something like that. Maybe even 30 seconds. I don't know how long it goes for, but it feels like a while it's going on.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like you're in a war zone, maybe. If I had something to equate it to, if people have never heard it before, it's just literally like these popping noises, super loud, just going off like crazy.
Yeah.
But fireworks, yeah, back then, over 20 years ago, super popular in Hawaii. People I don't even know how they would get them, to be honest with you. But they were the aerial ones that would like shoot up into the sky. And I think back then people had a relatively easy time getting their hands on that. But over time, things would happen. And like, something would land on someone's house. There would be like a fire, that kind of stuff.
Or someone would lose their hand.
Yeah, people would get injured. I don't feel like there was as much of an issue when I was younger, but definitely once I started to get into like that college age is when I started hearing about all these accidents that would happen. And I think, as people get older too. So like, let's say if I was in my 20s, there were a lot of other people in their 20s, when you're a little bit adventurous and you're like, I can do this, or this is cool. I want to blow stuff up or whatever.
Or drunk.
Or get drunk. That's when all the accidents happen. Unfortunately, you're just a little less alert. You're feeling a lot more confident and maybe not paying attention as much. And I think because those are things that we enjoyed as kids when we were like 18 and you could go into the store and buy the firecrackers or whatever, more and more people would go and buy them because we were old enough to. Mm-hmm. And they cause a lot of smoke.
Yeah.
Like a ton of smoke. So I know the other thing that was going on too is because so many people were buying these firecrackers and, letting them all go off on midnight was the time that everybody was doing this thing. It would be so smoky. And I heard that more people were going into the ER who had asthma.
Oh.
Because the smoke was so thick, they would have a hard time breathing. I mean, eventually, I don't know how many cases of this would happen to people, but I know it was like increasing over time. So then Hawaii was like, we got to cut it out. This is not healthy for anybody. People are getting hurt. They're getting really sick. So things started to become, they honestly just banned this stuff here. And people found their ways of still getting their hands on stuff and still doing it, but definitely not as much. I remember the year where it was like a really big deal. I feel like this was maybe about like 10 years ago where they were like really cutting it off. Mm-hmm. That last year, people like went all out. It was like crazy stuff going on.
That must have been kind of cool though.
It was cool. I don't mean crazy in a bad way.
Oh.
I don't remember people getting hurt or anything that year.
Okay.
But it looked really cool. Where I spent New Year's that year was kind of like on a mountainside, so you could see like pretty much anybody lighting anything up and shooting it into the air. You could see all of it. It was really cool.
I can look out my lanai and see still to this day so many fireworks, like ones that shoot up in the air.
Yeah. So where I was, you could pretty much see from like Diamond Head, Ala Moana, all the way to like Kapolei. So you could literally see like half of the island, basically.
Were you on Tantalus?
Yeah, on Tantalus. So you could see everything,
Yeah.
like anybody doing anything, except if you're in like Kaneohe or something like that, because
Sure.
that's over the mountain.
Yeah.
You could literally see everything, and it was like pretty crazy. The next year, it was like dead. Like it was so sad. There was like barely anything. You're like, that one person set something off. The cops are gonna find you because you're the only one doing it. You're not supposed to. But yeah, so it definitely changed like in that 1 year, and I mean, I don't hear as much noise, nowadays during New Year's, which is like a little bit sad. I mean, but at the same time too, I also like to sleep earlier. So stop doing that stuff.
So I have a question. I mean, we're not fireworks experts here, but I have a question for you just in case you might know. So at what point in that history of fireworks, the city cutting off people and saying no more, whatever the case might be, like, when did the fireworks at the Hawaiian, what's it called? The Hilton Hawaiian Village, like, when did that start happening?
The thing they do on Friday?
Yeah. Well, let me explain. So every Friday, the Hilton has fireworks that go off at 7:30 during parts of the year, and then when it starts getting darker a little bit later, they'll have it at 7:45, and it's every single Friday, and I can hear it from my house, and it's really cool because, I mean, people here love fireworks.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, like, do you know by any chance the timeline as to when that started
maybe
happening?
it started happening more frequently then. I don't remember them doing that when I was a little kid, for sure. Yeah, but I also don't know if like people didn't care about it as much. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that was like a point of interest for anybody back then, for like a hotel to be doing fireworks.
Yeah. But it's really popular now.
It is popular now. And I think too, because, I mean, if you're a tourist vacationing in Waikiki, I feel like that's a great time to be doing fireworks. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, because otherwise, when else are you seeing fireworks? 4th of July, that's it.
Yeah.
So if you're like, you're visiting here, like, oh, hey, what if you're here for like 2 weeks? You get to see it twice.
That's awesome. Yeah. And they do it right on the lagoon. So if you're anywhere in Waikiki.
Right. It's a nice view.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They have, so, I mean, nowadays, I think because of, them banning fireworks and stuff here.
Unless it's permitted, obviously.
Unless it's permitted, like by these properties, hotels and whatnot. I think that became more popular once it became illegal. So definitely there's like specified fireworks shows going on at like, I think probably Aloha Tower and I think some other places for New Year's specifically because, I mean, people want to do it. But at the same time too, those things are expensive. I'll be honest. I don't think this will get me in trouble because nobody is my witness. But I have lit fireworks before, like aerial fireworks. It was kind of cool.
Was it?
You like light it and you run really fast away. but I only did it once. And this was like during college or something like that. But at the time, some people I was hanging out with like friends and stuff. They're into that kind of thing. And I don't know.
It's fun.
I mean, it was a one-time thing.
I think the equivalent of this for where I'm from, like in California, is 4th of July.
Yeah.
Like this is where we have our barbecues and we light fireworks. And then what are those ones that you throw at the ground and they make them?
Oh, they just pop. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't know what they're called, but we loved those.
Yeah.
And those are legal.
Those you can still do. I feel like they don't give you as much though. Like it's mostly like sawdust and like less of the actual things that pop.
I think the reason that I still like it is because we got one box each.
Oh, okay.
it was like, give me like, so when I went to Vegas recently, my Vegas trip, I bought like 4 boxes because I was like, I get to buy whatever I want now. They're only $1, a couple bucks. I was like, I'm getting all of them because I was deprived of these things when I was younger. So sad. Anyways, enough about our fireworks, I guess.
Yeah, I was more interested in, as a child, I was more interested in sparklers. I don't know why, but something about it. But I used to like poke them into the ground and like light up a whole bunch like in a row. And I don't know, I thought that was cool for some reason.
It's fun. I think it's cool.
So there was that experience when I was a little kid with my grandparents' house and a ton of people coming over. But once I hit high school or college, I started to want to do things with friends instead.
Yep.
And so I feel like a lot of people have that friend in your group, and that's the friend's house. You know, that person who you're always hanging out at their house, and they're that go-to house. So that's the kind of stuff that we were doing in high school and college. Where, their parents didn't mind that all of us were coming over and we would just like barbecue or that kind of stuff. Nowadays, I would say like in today's world. So, the barbecue thing that was happening like 10, plus years ago. I hate to say that. At least 10 years ago. But nowadays, I honestly wouldn't mind staying home. Like, I honestly wouldn't mind just like chilling at home, watching some Netflix, catching up on stuff, because I don't watch movies very often. And neither do I keep up on shows. I mean, I probably binge watch a lot more than other people, but there are things that I want to watch on TV. And I don't know, I just feel like low-key holidays is kind of a thing for me. Like, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't be mad at it. But one thing I do want to do at some point is go to New York City during the holidays, because I feel like it's just very just one time, because I'm gonna be freezing. But I feel like they do holidays and decoration and all that stuff really well, so that's something that I definitely want to see. Nowadays, kind of like in our last episode, we were talking about Thanksgiving and holiday parties and all that kind of stuff. I do go to my in-laws because same thing. My parents don't do very much, you know. Yeah. Honestly, my dad works an overnight shift, so a lot of times on New Year's Eve he's working anyway. Mm-hmm. So, you know, just kind of that's a stay-at-home, just chill thing. But yeah, and I think maybe for me, I had low-key New Year's at home with my parents because we always had dogs and we didn't want to like freak them out too much or anything like that. So yeah,
that's cool.
Mm-hmm. What about you?
For me, we didn't have a big party or anything like that. When I was younger, we kind of just stayed home. Like, younger meaning you kind of have to hang out with your parents because you're too young to go out and do anything with anybody. But once I got to the point or the age where I was actually hanging out with friends, it's kind of similar. We would hang out, we would party, probably a little too young partying, but we would just have some fun and order some pizzas and drink really cheap vodka. You know, that's it. But now I'm kind of similar to you in the sense that I just kind of stay home. You know, I lived in Vegas for 7 years and I was always working because I was in the restaurant industry. You don't really
That's
get
when people
days
are going
off.
out.
Exactly.
Too. Mm-hmm.
But when midnight came around, the restaurant was dead because everybody wanted to go. They shut down the streets and the strip in Vegas. So everybody goes outside to watch the fireworks because all of the hotels start their fireworks shows at the same time. And so, like, 7 or 8 hotels have fireworks going off at the top on the rooftop. So it's really cool. So what we do is, since nobody's in the restaurant, is we go outside somehow and try to go look at, or like go to the window and see if we can see some of the fireworks. And so you see all these like restaurant workers at the side at the side of the restaurant, and there's like 1 or 2 people. Actually, there's people that filter by the bar or congregate by the bar, so they'll watch from there. But yeah. That's pretty much it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, like nowadays when I moved to Hawaii, since we didn't work in the restaurant industry anymore, we could celebrate at home. So my husband and I would watch those New Year's shows where they had like performers, you know, singing
like
their best
countdown
hits.
Thing,
yeah,
or like
exactly.
Times Square. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then we were like, this is it got kind of lame sometimes. So we would just watch something else, and then we would have like maybe a beer together, or a glass of wine, and that was it. But when Chinese New Year came, that's when the family got together when I moved here.
Yeah, and I guess to, you know, differentiate, Chinese New Year is not on January 1st.
No.
It's a different day.
Yeah. It's usually end of January or beginning of February, depending. It's based on the lunar moon and all that good stuff. But I would say when I moved to Hawaii is when New Year's became more significant, but it was more around Chinese New Year. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit different. But the cultural significance, I would say, you know, for me and my family, we didn't have a whole lot of cultural significance around New Year's. But when I met my husband, I realized that there's a lot of cultural significance around New Year's. And it's a lot about releasing the negative and the bad or anything that might have happened in the previous year and starting anew. Funny story. I have 2 funny stories about New Year's and the cultural practices or traditions, I should say, that my husband introduced me to. One was the day before, so New Year's Eve, he told me, I totally forgot we have to clean the house before New Year's. So this is in Vegas. We had a 1,500 square foot house or 1,200 square foot house. You know, now we have 700 square feet. So this was, you know, really decent sized house. And I had to clean the whole thing because he was at work. It was like 4 hours before midnight.
Hold on, who forgot here?
And I was like, wait, this isn't my tradition. But I wanted to be respectful.
Right,
and I didn't want, you know, any kind of like negativity around our house or whatever could be perceived on his side. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, well, cleaning the house and having a clean house, but I was like, this is real weird that this is just coming up now. You know what I mean? But you know, we'll clean the house every year now. One thing he told me was cut your nails and your toenails the day before New Year's, I guess it's bad luck to, cut your nails the after New Year's. So we do that just to, be respectful. And then his family, they pray and provide offerings to Buddha and to those that have passed on. So that's some things that they do. But also, some of the food, I don't know a whole lot around the food significance, but I guess eating noodles kind of represents a long life and a long successful life, or whatever the case might be. So we typically eat noodles around New Year's. And then another thing that my husband told me, this is my other New Year's story that just makes me laugh. It didn't make me laugh then, but it makes me laugh now, is that he told me you're not supposed to chop food after New Year's. So at midnight, you're done prepping your food until the day after New Year's. So I had to prep anything I needed to cook the day before. Then we moved to Hawaii, and I asked, I think his mom or his sister, what is the significance of not chopping? Like, what do chefs do? That they're chefs in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. Like, what do they do? Well, that's their job, so it's okay. But his mom said, no, that's not a thing. You can chop. You can do whatever you want and cook in the kitchen. Food is important. You got to eat. And she was like, I never said that. So she's like, I think you're getting it confused with cutting your nails. So I think that lost in translation when she was telling him in Vietnamese, he kind of misinterpreted it.
Or thought that cutting anything, maybe.
Maybe,
or cutting a variety of things.
Exactly. So it was just kind of funny. We bonded over that, me and his family, when I first moved here, but it was funny. What about you? What cultural significance do you have on your side, the things that you guys do?
Well, I do know that New Year's is a significant Japanese event, I guess, and it is around January 1st. Mm-hmm. That's their New Year. But I don't know exactly why, and I pulled up an article online and read a little bit about it because I was like, I don't know why. I mean, I just grew up knowing people cared about New Year's, but not why anybody cared about it. And apparently, I guess the culture believes that each year is treated separately. So you want to go into the new year, it's like a fresh start sort of thing, which I feel like people do when they talk about goals and resolutions and that kind of stuff as well. But I would say that that's kind of all I know about it. I don't know too much further than that, or like where it stems from, or, if there was some kind of like historical event that occurred that sort of triggered this, ongoing thing. But as far as New Year's, like cultural traditions that I would do, being like of Japanese ancestry, I guess, I honestly, I like the little like bamboo arrangements where there's like three little like, I don't know what you call it, like pieces of bamboo that they like tie together in like a triangular sort of formation. And that's supposed to be like a good luck thing. I forget where you're supposed to put it. Sorry. It's either at the front of your house or the back of your house. It's one of those things like near a door. Okay. But they also like to do a lot of things with mochi. I don't know why, I just like to eat mochi. So you can do whatever you want with mochi. Yeah, sure. And they also put like a little tangerine like orange on top of it too. All this is surrounding some kind of good luck thing going into the new year. Generally speaking, the mochi, you put the orange on the mochi and all this kind of stuff. I just like to eat it, to be honest with you. But one thing that I do remember, and what I noticed recently that people do differently, I had no idea, to be honest, because I'd say 90% of Japanese people I know are doing the same thing. But along the lines of the whole noodles and the longevity and that kind of stuff. So my thought was that Japanese tradition on New Year's Eve, you ate noodles, which I thought was either somen or soba. So soba is buckwheat noodle. It's like a wheat noodle. And then somen is kind of like, I think it's a rice noodle. It's like a really thin white noodle. And I knew that people had different types of like recipes that they would follow. Obviously, the noodles are the noodles, but whatever you garnish it with or the sauce that you use or whatever, that was kind of like some kind of family recipe. For my family, we had always done soba, but somen didn't really like surprise me because I don't know, I like somen too. So I was like, sure, I'll eat somen.
Who doesn't?
But the one time that kind of like threw me off, I found out that people actually use like saimin or ramen as their noodle. And I was like, that's different. I mean, I guess for me, I feel like ramen is more like that thing you eat whenever you want to, not that thing you eat on a certain day.
So I don't know if this is real, but my husband said because the noodles are long, right? Like longer
like
than
longer
any,
the noodle,
they're longer
the better
than rice,
kind of thing, right?
They're
Yeah.
longer than, penne pasta. So
Yeah, that's real short.
That's where it represents the longevity piece. So maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I'm just speaking out of turn here, but maybe if it's a long noodle, it doesn't matter what kind of noodle.
Yeah.
We don't know.
It was just
don't
interesting.
take our word for it.
Because I only know of one family that does ramen and everybody else does soba or somen. That's the thing that threw me off, and I was like, oh, that's different. Okay, whatever.
Ramen noodles
cool.
are delicious.
Yeah,
so
I like them too.
Whatever.
But the part that I liked the best was the next day. So on New Year's morning, I guess, like quote unquote breakfast would be mochi and a soup, which that's like my favorite thing about New Year's. Mochi soup. I know that sounds really dumb.
Can you explain what mochi is for my mainland
So mochi,
folks?
mochi is basically just rice, and traditionally made, they pound it in this like stone, I don't know, it's this huge like stone bowl thing with wooden mallets, and that's how you make it traditionally. Now there's machines that make it, but it's essentially is just like this sticky, kind of like doughy feel to the rice once it's all like smashed up together. And you do have to my understanding, because I've never made it myself as well. I buy it from the store, but it's like a certain type of rice grain, and there's like different things that they put into it. But usually what they do after, kind of like as if you were making a pasta, from scratch.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I would probably liken the mouthfeel to maybe a sweeter, chewier gnocchi.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, more
for those
sticky.
who have never had it before.
Because I feel like gnocchi, you can just bite through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and mochi kind of like sticks.
Yeah.
It's very sticky.
It's a little more sticky.
But they do have this flour that, I don't know what kind of flour it is, but they kind of put it over. It's a very, very fine flour. They call it mochiko flour, which, also doesn't tell me what exactly it is. Mochi flour. But they put that over it, and that kind of makes it like less sticky because,
flour.
I think it is some kind of rice flour. So when you like pick it up or whatever, it's not like stuck to your hand or anything. But I like mochi best in a soup. So, I'm really lazy. All I do is chicken broth, open up a can, boil that up. I don't know how my grandma would make it. She might have done that as well. But usually you put this cabbage in it. It's called mizuna. It looks kind of like arugula-like, but longer pieces of it. But it is like it's not a very strong tasting cabbage. Some other people use their soba sauce from the previous night and put kind of like dilute it a little bit, because usually soba sauce I feel like is more like heavy soy sauce flavor, but they'll like dilute it a little bit or add other things in it and put that in their mochi. So I like it in a soup, and I like it fried. So I literally like fry it in a pan, so it's crispy on the outside.
Oh yeah.
And I get like chopsticks and I like stick it in there, so it's almost like marshmallow on a stick, but it's like mochi. Yeah, it's really good.
I had that. I've had it from Shirokiya before, but the bigger,
Yep.
I've never had the mochi soup before, or I thought I hadn't until I just remembered that when you go to shabu shabu, which is like basically...
Yeah. Sometimes they do, at the end, right?
They have those like slivers of rice cake. It's kind of like mochi,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. It's just smaller.
I love those.
Yeah, it's good.
And I've never had it for like New Year's with mochi, and I'm sure it's a little bit different. But shabu shabu, if for those of you who don't know, you get to pick a broth, and then you get a whole bunch of raw vegetables or raw, hot pot,
your table.
Yep, or raw meat, and then you put it in the hot soup, and it cooks it for you. They have these little rice cake thingies, are thin and flat, and they're so good.
Yep,
they don't
when you
have any
boil it up,
flavor
it
to
gets
them,
all
but when
soft
but when you put it in that broth,
it just soaks up whatever it's touching.
Something
Maybe I want to
else.
do hot pot for New Year's.
I want to do hot pot right now.
Yeah, I'll do hot pot any day. I actually have a thing. I could do hot pot. I actually bought it for hurricane preparedness, but
really?
I haven't used it at all because nothing happened. Thank goodness. But yeah, I would want to do hot pot.
A friend of mine, Amy, she does hot pot parties at her house in California.
Yeah,
she
that's
invites
fun.
people over. It's kind of.
I've done it before.
She posts pictures about it. I'm like, wow, that looks super good. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Anyways, that was a tangent on Japanese
Yeah,
food,
sorry.
But yeah, I love soba. I love mochi soup, and I like fried mochi. That's like my 3 favorite things about New Year's, I guess. So, Tempsy, talking about New Year's, something I feel like a lot of people do and is maybe considered popular, resolutions and goals. So setting things for the new year. Is there anything that you do for this? How do you plan? What kind of goals do you set?
Honestly, I used to plan resolutions, but only because I kept hearing other people do it. And I don't feel like I was as consistent, just like everybody else. Everybody floods the gym on New Year's, and then it's like crickets by March. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was kind of the same way. I don't stick with it, but Over time, I just stopped making New Year's resolutions, but I realized that I'm kind of a planner in general. So I set goals for myself throughout the year anyway, or I'll reflect at the beginning of the year as to what I want to accomplish throughout the year, and then I kind of break it down into small bites. Hashtag bullet journal. Anyways, go back to our bullet journal episode. You'll learn all about that. But I just feel like one resolution throughout the year is it's overwhelming and it can get exhausting when it doesn't really need to be.
Puts too much focus on something.
Yeah, and I feel like there's no time but the present. Why would you just wait till New Year's to start? Which is funny because there is this actress, her name is Jenna Fisher. She played Pam on The Office. And she listened to another podcast where they said, why don't you start reflecting on New Year's resolutions in Q4 and just start working on it, Q4 of the previous year. And then you're ahead of the game, start New Year. I just thought that was a really great idea. But then I was like, but I have goals throughout the year anyway. So I'm already kind of ahead of the game anyway.
Sure, getting a running start.
Yeah, so but if anybody wants to try that's not really a planner, I thought that was a really good tip. But for me, I think this year I'm going to do some reflecting at New Year's time and set my goals and anything that I didn't accomplish, which one of the things was I wanted to do a lot of recipe testing. I haven't had a lot of time for that. I've only done it once or twice. So I'm going to have to catch up on that next year, and I'll just pull that in and it'll be fine. So I don't want to put too much pressure on myself
that makes
because
sense.
I start to rebel.
Like
internally.
Oh, I need to do this. Well, I don't want to.
Yeah. So too bad. So
I get it.
Yeah.
It's weird that, we're talking about people who hit the gym once January rolls around and then stop going, a couple months later, because I read this article about, New Year's resolutions, what's the most popular. And it even had which states, repeatedly said, whatever was, collectively was going to be a resolution. But there was one part about people giving up on their resolutions. And, a lot of these were losing weight, eating healthier, getting a new job, getting paid more. And then there were a couple of other states that did more wellness related, take care of myself better or read a new book or learn a new
language.
Anything, learn something new. And so the article continued to talk about how long people keep their resolutions, and it was something high, almost half the amount of people only do it for 1 month.
Wow.
Almost half. It was 40% or something like that. 40% of people only keep their resolution for 1 month and then they give up on it after that. And it was 10% of people who actually make a permanent change.
Wow.
So I don't know.
Let's just throw out the whole New Year's resolution thing.
It's not totally necessary. I mean, obviously, if you are somebody who I think we both are, people who are checking in with ourselves periodically, or if there's something that we want to do, we figure out a way to make it happen or whatever. At that time, I honestly don't feel like I would want to wait for New Year's just because, and thinking back to being a student a lot of my life until school was done. I mean, I think that's where you're the most habit forming. I feel like the New Year or holiday season was that feeling of time of rest. So I was never making goals for the new year because I'm this is a break. I've been studying a lot,
And my teachers set goals for me.
Right, exactly.
Test on this day, this paper
right,
due
be ready
this
for,
day.
You need to know this. Okay, fine.
Yep.
And then especially when graduation or whatever comes up, you're obviously this is a goal I need to reach. So then, you become an adult and you're goals? Wait, what? I got to set them on my own. I have to think about what they are. So, same here. I don't really make resolutions. I personally, like I mentioned, try to work on things during the year because I just don't think it's sustainable, and then if I give up on something, I'm going to feel I disappointed myself. Oh my God, I couldn't finish this or whatever. And really it's part of me trying to be realistic, but that doesn't mean I don't want to commit to anything. I guess it's just because I could never think of doing one thing for a super long term. I don't know. I mean, you're either going to reach your goal within, let's say 3-6 months or whatever. And then you're done for the year.
Yeah.
No, that's not really how it should work. In my opinion.
Yeah.
And, I do like to think that I'm relatively mindful of things that I would like to try to do or improve on. But if I had to choose something to be a resolution or something I should work on, I would say to be more grateful. And that's very probably a weird thing to choose. But I don't think people look at me and are Shelly is an ungrateful person.
No.
I also think that I am pessimistic, although I call it realistic.
I also think you're very self-aware.
I mean, I think that's good. But see, I'm self-aware, so I'm recognizing I'm not
Exactly.
grateful enough. So that's something that I should work on. And it's not that I don't tell people thank you or anything like that. And it's not that I'm like not grateful or thankful for people like doing things. But I don't know. I think just in general, like I give a lot of credit to somebody who like sees the sun coming up and they're like, I'm so grateful for this day. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know. It's just another day.
So you're talking more of like a gratitude practice or mindset as a whole.
Right. Yeah.
I do hear that when people write down what they're grateful for every day, like if they write down 3 things a day, it does change their mindset over time.
Yeah.
So
I hear that too. I've tried to do it. I forget about it day 2. So that's like, giving up on a New Year's resolution. I'm realistic.
same thing.
But it's just, I don't know. It's like forming new habits. I mean, I formed new habits to like drink more water, like to exercise more regularly. I mean, well, that I hired somebody to make me do. But I mean, I figure out the ways to do it, right?
Right.
Yeah. At the same time, too, I mean, I think we also have to like keep ourselves in check. And although one could say, I'll try to form a habit. So I'm going to like set a reminder on my phone or put it on my calendar. Mm-hmm. There's like I feel a threshold where you're just going to ignore it after some
wallpaper.
point. Yeah. You're just going to not even see it and move on with your day. So
I had a friend who used to put eat salad on a Post-it. My friend Tara, she used to put eat salad on a Post-it on her monitor. And I'm like, I
You're gonna ignore it at some point,
salad once a month, It became wallpaper, what I mean?
You forget about it after a while. So I think, learning about these, like if you're really set on doing something, learning about the things that will help you remember, reflecting, being self-aware and knowing that if I do this for 2 weeks, I'm going to forget about it. And then so, thinking of that other strategy that works for you, I think, is what's really important for people who do want to keep those goals or who are making resolutions and want to continue doing them.
Yeah. But I think you're always trying to be more grateful. Like, it's not like, okay, for New Year's, this is what I'm going to do.
Oh, yeah.
You've been trying, you've been trying to make it a habit. And I think that's kind of our whole point. For me, people in general very easily go to the negative, That's just how we are as people. If something negative comes up, it's real easy for us to dwell on it.
Right.
And it's 7 times harder for us to get back into the positive, So for me, I'm always trying to think more positively, remember what happened that went really well today, because there could be one thing that went slightly poorly.
Yeah.
And my whole day's ruined. I'm draining.
You're focusing on it.
Yeah, exactly. Like 5 minutes of negativity, I'm now like milking for the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. So when I find myself doing that, I try to snap out of it and think of, wait, what were 3 things that went really well today? And usually I find 5 things that went well.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a bad day.
Right.
I just had a bad 5 minutes that I milked the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to, get better at that, make that more of a habit to where I don't have to intentfully do it anymore. It's now a habit.
Yeah. I think, personal project wise, some things that I should probably focus on getting better at or like figuring out ways to remind myself is like being more consistent with posting stuff online for like my YouTube channel or social media channels, because that becomes like low priority when other things get busy. But, we'll see how it goes in 2020.
But I mean,
oh my God. I almost said 2019.
But those are the little goals that you prepare in your reflection for the new year, right?
Yeah.
Same thing for this podcast. We're already talking about 2020. We were talking about content that we want to, discuss in our episodes and prepare for social media posts and things like that so that we're staying on track.
Yeah. And I bought a whiteboard so I could like write reminders on it.
Perfect.
So I can, keep myself on track that way too, because it's huge.
Yeah.
You can't miss it.
Yep. And that's where my bullet journal really helps too, like tracking things that are happening throughout the year, making sure I'm hitting those goals. So I'm definitely going to be doing that and reflecting on the exciting things that happened this year. If anybody remembers, when we were talking about bullet journaling, I said that I did a 2018 year in review and I printed out all these little pictures of what happened with my family throughout the year. I'm definitely going to do that again this year and be like, what happened in 2019? So you can kind of reflect on, wow, what an amazing year. Because sometimes it could feel like the year just was so bad or this happened or that happened. it's nice to focus on the positive. So I think we'll leave you guys with that. If you have New Year's resolutions or you have a different perspective on New Year's, let us know.
Yeah, or if there's some goals that you want to share. Sometimes, telling somebody else helps you keep yourself more accountable. So we're here for that too.
Yeah.
We can be your accountability.
Absolutely.
All right, so thanks for listening to this episode of The Outright Effect. You can find us at theoutrighteffect.com, on social media at The Outright Effect on Instagram and Facebook, or email us at theoutrighteffect@gmail.com. See you guys next time.
Bye.